golly, I've spent nearly 50 years learning TA, being involved in TA and understanding people, and inquiring about life and the nature of life and relationships. And the one thing that I keep coming to as the secret of life is two questions. Is this enlivening or is this deadening? Is this workshop that I'm giving with you right now enlivening or is it deadening? People said to me, Adrienne, you must be crazy offering to do a workshop on the Queen's Jubilee, you know, when you could be away on holiday and whatever, what are you doing? And I'm thinking to myself, well, I hope it's going to be enlivening for me rather than deadening. So this is up to you guys, because this is one of the other points I'm going to be making, is that it's not up to me alone, it's up to a process, and it's part of that process of making things enlivening that I'm committing my life to as a transactional analyst and as a mother, as a human being. So this question, is it enlivening? I'll do more of it. If it's deadening, I'm going to stop doing that, is what's guiding my life. And people say to me, you know, Adrienne, you know, you're 75, for goodness sake, you're still running the Burn Institute. When are you going to retire? You've no idea how many people say that to me almost daily. And I keep saying, well, you know, it still gives me a buzz. It still gives me vitality. So as long as it's enlivening, I'm going to carry on. And if it's not, I won't. And although I'm starting with this almost anecdotally, I actually think this is crucial to our theme and crucial to the topic that we're presenting. So, you know, I invite you to think about those questions and, you know, ask them of yourself, not just in this session, I hope, but in other sessions too. How are we doing? The other thing is that what I would really like is for you to chip in whenever you want to. It really, you know, it enlivens me if I have dialogue. It deadens me if I'm giving a lecture. So, you know, if you've got any questions, or if you've got a thought, or if something gets stimulated in you that you'd like to respond, come back to it. Just come off mute and say it, and let's engage in this together. Is that okay with you folks? Let's keep this organic and flowing and connected.
Yeah, it's okay. Yeah.
Yeah, hi. Who's talking?
I was just saying it's okay for us to, yeah, thank you for the invitation.
Yeah, great. How do we pronounce your name? Is it?
It's Piotr or Peter in English, Piotr in Polish.
Piotr or Peter.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. God, it was lovely to hear a voice. You know, as soon as I heard Piotr's voice responding to me, I suddenly felt enlivened. I suddenly thought, oh my goodness, I'm not just teaching rectangles here. You're human beings, you know. So do chip up, folks. It's great. So the first point I'm going to be talking about is liminal space. I think we are now in a liminal time. And I'd like to explore with you for a few moments about what we mean by liminality. And some of you I know are familiar with this term and have already been using it and integrating this in your work. And I've come across it in many writings, but particularly, I think it was Giles Barrow who really got me fired up about it. He taught it for quite some time. And we are now in a space of liminality. It has been so, certainly for me, and I'm sure it has for many people, on many different levels. And what we're talking about is times of transition, times of movement from one space to another. And you can see in this photograph, in this picture here, it's about letting go of one thing and not quite reaching the other. It's being in that space in between, first of all. I was thinking about the pandemic, and I was thinking about how suddenly life stopped. Or everything that we were normally, or that I would normally do, I couldn't do anymore. I was going to travel, I was going to go on holiday, I was going to go out with friends, I was going to meet with people, I was going to, all of that suddenly stopped, and I was at home, as many of you were. And it's like, what's going to happen now? When will life return, and will it ever return to what it was, or will it be something different? And just before the pandemic, my husband died, a man I'd been living with for 50 years. I realized I'd never ever lived on my own. For 50 years, he has been my companion. He has been with me, and suddenly, not suddenly, gradually he died. And I was suddenly left with this space of, who am I now in that transition of being a married woman with a partner, to now being single, to now being on my own, to sharing my house, my life, my bed, to being suddenly on my own. What does that mean? And the whole process of grief and letting go of what was the old way of life, and not knowing quite what to attach to in the new space that was opening in front of me. Still opening in front of me, still I don't know. So I'm still in that liminal space. And for me, at the same time, something else happened. I had a house by the beach on the south coast in England, and it needed some building work doing to it. And I got in a builder, and there had to be some demolition work at the back so that he could build on this new conservatory. And he was a crook. He was a rogue builder. He just wanted to take my money and wasn't a builder at all. And so the work he did actually caused the whole back of my house to fall down. And I was left with a ruin, a house that was uninhabitable, that was chaos. This was all during COVID, or just before COVID, while my husband was dying. I mean, it was just very a time of great disillusionment for me personally. And he took loads of money from me. But the point is, I did find a new builder, a master builder, who has built the most beautiful, glorious house for me. But for a while I had to deal with that time of loss, destruction, and not knowing whether I would, or the house would, or whether we as a community after the pandemic would survive all of this. And now it's not just, of course, the pandemic, it is, of course, the wars that are raging, particularly in the Ukraine, and it is, of course, climate change. And these are some of just a few of the things that we are all dealing with. So, liminal space then, it's about the understanding, the experience of that liminal space. It comes from the Latin word limen, which means threshold. When all that lies behind you, all that was known is behind you. And you're on the threshold of the unknown. So it's like the process of change, the process of life, the process of the environment takes us from one state to another, from the known to the unknown, and we stand on the edge of that. And this space, this place, is characterized by having to let go of what is familiar and be open to what may be emerging. And sometimes that's forced on us. It's been forced on many of those refugees in the Ukraine. They've had to leave what is known, they've had to leave their country. They've had to leave chaos and do not know where they are going, many of them, or do not know what the future will hold for them. And it's about being open to what is emerging as well as being aware of what has been left behind. So it is about a moment of being and becoming where something that is imminent and possibly transcendent can come together.
Can I make a comment there, Adrienne? It's
Yes.
Nicole.
Great to hear you.
I'm very touched by your story, and I thank you for sharing it. And as you give your definition, so to say, of a liminal space, I'm thinking of integration as well. I lost my father last year, very surprisingly, to COVID. So he left very surprisingly. And I'm now at Greece, at the place where he took us to when we were little, or when I was little, as a family. And as I'm reconnecting to this place here, a year after his death, I'm really feeling how I, in these last 12 months, have integrated parts of him while having to let him go, and having to let go of contact and our rituals and everything that was related to his physical presence. I noticed that I integrated him. I don't know, maybe the introject changes somehow, but integration is something that I noticed in this liminal time as well.
I think that is such a beautiful contribution, Nicole.
Thank you.
Because I think there's a way in which, in order to step away from the one place to go into the next, we don't have to destroy what has gone. We have to We have to find a way of transforming it, or integrating it is a lovely idea. To integrate it so that we can carry it lightly with us, not heavily with us, as we travel to the next destination, part of your family history. So your family history, if you go back to Greece, as you go back to the space where you grew up as children, you visit that, you rekindle that, but you are integrating it in a way that will nourish the next generation. And
that is enlivening.
I think so.
Yeah.
And that's how to enliven it, I think. So thank you. That's such a beautiful contribution.
Thank you.
So I'm going to invite you just for a moment, just each of you to reflect. I'm going to talk more about liminal space, but I just want you to have some reflection. So can you just, this is a very short exercise really, but to reflect on a time of transition in your life. Think about a time of transition. Maybe when you've had to leave one part of your life behind. Maybe a school, maybe a job, maybe a relationship, maybe a goal, maybe your country, maybe your health. My question is, how long did you stay in the liminal space? And what was it like? Was it painful, frightening, deadening, distressing, challenging? And what I invite you to do is to just think of 3 words that describe that process for you. If you think about one time of that kind of transition. 3 words that describe the experience in the liminal space. Just going to show you the next slide, and then I'm going to invite you to go into breakout rooms to talk about this briefly. I'm just quoting from Richard Rohr, who says that much of the work of human destiny is to get people into liminal space and keep them there long enough to learn something essential and genuinely new, because it is the ultimate teachable space. God, and I know we've got some educators here. I can see you, Beatrice, here for a start. And, you know, I know that this is the place of true learning. I hope you'd agree with me.